There's a certain amount of expectations from others that come with the title of being a founder or a CEO. People want you to know. Like if I go to someone and they ask me, a finance question, certainly they're going to want me to know, if not the details, at least at a high level, what the finances look like and things like that.
Hi, I'm Nick Warner. As a dad, a lucky husband, and as a business coach, I value people and relationships above all else. But next is winning, sustainability, and healthy culture. I've been a business owner for 25 years and served for decades as a special advisor to business and government leaders at all levels. Let's just say I've seen some stuff. My passion and my expertise are helping motivated professionals and businesses find the highest level confluence of what they want in life and business. This is what it feels like to be together at the top. Thank you to our sponsors, Scholl's Brick and Rogaski, Three Bridges Consulting, Kathy Olson at Ships and Trips, and Connect Strategies. Troy Parish is the founder and CEO of FLAGD Golf, FLAGD Golf. FLAGD Golf offers unique GPS distance measuring solution for golf course practice facilities such as the driving range. Troy founded the company almost 8 years ago after leaving the golf course frustrated one day that he couldn't know how far he was hitting the ball on the practice range. Troy was an experienced and very successful leader in big corporate communications companies, having achieved next-level success as a sales executive with companies including ShoreTel and Sprint Nextel. How and why the heck did Troy walk away from the paycheck and a whole career's worth of work to pursue a golf product? We want to know how it's going and what you've learned. Hey, Troy, where are you this morning? Say hello to the listeners together at the top.
Yeah, good morning, Nick. Happy to be here. I am in, unfortunately, rainy San Diego, which is kind of rare, but our office is in Solana Beach, California, which is where I grew up. So I'm sitting in our office today and super excited to be with you this morning, for sure. I mean, it's crazy when you say 8 years and I look back at the timing going, wow, I really can't believe it's been 8 years since we started the company, but what a fun and exciting ride it's been so far.
Yeah, and going with that, it's been 3 years since we interviewed you, and you're now the third member of the Two-Timers Club Together at the Top, which is really cool.
I like it. Do I get like on Saturday Night Live, they get, if you're on there 5 years, you get like a robe or something? Do I get a two-timer robe or something, Nick?
I'm looking at our producer, Raleigh Burney, shaking his head no. So I think we got some work to do on the silk robe, but thanks for bringing it up. That's good stuff. We'll have to work on that. Hey, you've grown a company since then, and I've had thousands of coaching sessions since then, frankly, and I feel like we probably both learned a lot of stuff. Really looking forward to catching up with you. You ready to jump in?
Absolutely. Yeah, let's go.
Awesome. Year 3 is fledgling. Year 7 and almost 8 indicates you've made it and you will make it. Tell us about the trajectory from year 1 through year 7, and specifically what's different in year 7 in those early years, Troy.
Yeah. So like I mentioned before, it's been a really exciting, rewarding, kind of humbling experience as an entrepreneur, starting something out, not having any idea if people are going to like it, if they're going to use it, if you're going to be able to make a living out of it, and to see where we've come over the last 8 years. And since the last time even that we talked 3 years ago, there's just been a lot of really cool and exciting things that are happening. I think the biggest thing for us right now is we've gone from, like I just mentioned, kind of having to prove ourselves to people and kind of building our brand and getting that credibility from customers, to now having that really strong base of those clients that are using us. I mean, we have over 500 courses now that are using us all across the country, which they believe in us and they use the product and they're coming back to us as their subscriptions expire and getting into new subscriptions. So now it's less about the credibility piece, and now it's all about expanding that and putting kind of the foot on the accelerator and doing everything we can to really talk to more and more courses and really leveraging what we've been able to build with our current customers to now talk to a lot more new prospects. We've been able to come out with some pretty cool and exciting new products as well, which, by the way, I wasn't expecting when we got into it, but where we've seen those kind of product ideas come from are those current customers. So them coming to us saying, hey, you guys have done a great job helping us solve this problem on our practice facility. Have you thought about this? And so us as a company, because we're entrepreneurial and somewhat flexible in our approach, being able to kind of adopt to what those trends and those needs are within our customer base, and then just really listening to those customers and kind of adjusting our game plan from there. But yeah, I mean, the biggest difference, like I said, to summarize, would be going from having people understand who we are to now just taking that story and expanding it to a lot more courses.
Yeah. Back it up for us a little bit. I flew over the top of what your product is, and somebody could picture you on the range. Anybody who's been in a driving range, you hit the ball and you're aiming at a flag, but you don't know really how far you hit it because they move the tees up and back. So describe that product, but also when you say our customers brought this up or brought that up, so we adopted to that. Describe a couple of the thises and the that's of things you hear where your customer starts to dictate where your product goes. Baseline us and then give us a sense of the growth in product was.
Yeah. So our core product really came, like you mentioned, from the get go, from a pet peeve of mine. I grew up playing golf, and it was just a frustration I'd have. I'd go to hit balls at a driving range and I wouldn't know how far it is from where I was hitting to the targets. And there was antiquated ways of doing it with like big signs that were nowhere near where I was hitting. And the staff at the club that I was playing would have to change those tiles out each day. And sometimes they wouldn't. And so the yardages, again, it's a country club problem, right? We're not like solving world peace or something like that, or world hunger, but it was a problem. And so we came up with a solution originally for the practice facility that when I first developed it, I was really kind of developing it for me as someone who's a golfer. What I didn't really know getting into it, because we weren't in the golf industry, was what a big problem it was for the staff at the club. Because they would get, again, country club members coming, hitting balls, and they would complain about it. And they would go to their pro and, say, hey, why aren't my yardages right? Or I don't know what my distances are. And so I think that's why, a big part of why we've had such good success with these clubs who are really looking to provide that elevated experience with their members and guests, is not only were we helping solve a problem for their members and guests, but we were alleviating the issues that the directors of golf and head pros and folks were having with people complaining about things. So again, that's kind of how it started. And really, you kind of did a good job from the get-go, again, describing what the product does. But they'll bring these units out on a daily basis. All they'll do is they'll press a button on one of our devices, and then it'll talk to GPS and it'll say, okay, I'm here in this location. Where are those targets that are on the driving range? And now when I come up to hit balls, it's going to show me, how far that white pin is from where I'm hitting. So that was, again, kind of our core product. But then we had people coming back and saying, hey, you know what? We've got an issue with our par threes, where when our members and guests come to this par three, they're slowing down the pace of play, and they're constantly asking us questions about how far the tees, the different sets of tees are from the pin location on that par three. And so again, it was just an antiquated way of doing it, where people would have to get out the cart, take a couple clubs, walk up a set of stairs back and forth. And it just wasn't smooth. And so people came to us and said, hey, can you help us solve this problem? And we were able to do that with our par three solution. And so again, since that time, almost every other year, we've been able to come out with something that's kind of new. But most of those ideas aren't necessarily coming from me or us going, hey, this is what we think is going to be great for our customers. It's completely the opposite. Well, they'll call us up and say, we trust you on the range. We trust you on our par three. Can you do this other thing? Which as an entrepreneur is really fun and exciting to see.
Yeah, it's neat for you to take your clues from your client. Two observations. One is, one of my favorite books is Good to Great.
Yeah, great book.
And Good to Great observes that great companies over time are hedgehog companies where they stay in their genius. They stay in that confluence between what they love and what they're best at the world at. And companies that were great or were good and get off that track oftentimes end up having product lines that are so far outside of their hedgehog, so far outside of their brilliance and their genius that it takes them off course. And it sounds like you're being, well, I'd love to get your comment on that, because you can easily get off course. Like apparel is one example,
Right.
where you're making golf clubs or grips or gloves. What are your thoughts on saying no to things so you can stay in your genius?
Yeah. So, and it's a great point, because we've definitely been asked about different kind of avenues that we could potentially go down. And my big thing is really trying to stay as true to our brand and kind of what we represent, so people don't get confused. So again, we've got customers that will come to us and say, "Hey, have you thought about something, right, that isn't at all in line with what we are do or what we represent or what we're even good at, as Flag?" And we definitely, in those cases, go back to them and say, "Hey, you know what? We're probably not the right fit for that. You might want to talk to these folks or kind of guide them in a different direction." For me and for the company, really, when we look at something, we want to make sure it lines up with, again, our brand and the product solutions, which are, our focus is really to come up with simple kind of technology. But again, technology is kind of the key word there. But we're doing it in a way that's not like in your face technology. It's more subtle and kind of a country club aesthetic kind of look and feel to it, versus it being like, "Oh, wow, look at, all this crazy technology." So yeah, to your point, we do say no. We say yes to the ones that we go, "Oh, that's perfect. Like, that sounds great. That's right in our alley."
Yeah, really good. I think part of the lesson is stay in your genius, and saying no is not saying no in a vacuum. It's saying no so you can continue to say yes to something else that's valuable, that you love, and that is best in class. The second observation is, and maybe you already commented on, but I want to make the observation if you want to comment, I'd love to hear it, is letting your client help you define your utility. For me, as an early coach, I thought I was just an executive coach. And even though I had some emerging leaders, I was mostly doing like your level executive coaching. And then I had people say to me, and the parallel is like somebody saying to you, it'd be helpful on a part three, "Hey, could you work with some of my emerging leaders? Could you come into my conference room? We're a mediocre performing team. Could you help us be a high performing team?" And me thinking, oh, I didn't necessarily see that.
Right.
Another example is somebody has expertise in an issue and they want me to come in. And I say, "I don't know anything about that." And they go, "That's exactly why we want you to bring you in. We want your complete fresh eyes and ears on our situation." Oh, okay. And these are things I have said yes to that I didn't see as part of my offering early on.
Right. Yeah, exactly. I think a big part of that for us, and I believe it kind of comes with our team's past experience in working at different companies, corporations, a lot in a sales and marketing type of capacity, but selling products again in the past that required a very consultative approach and conversation with your customers, not transactional, where a customer could come to your website, click on a couple buttons and order something. That's never really been kind of how we've approached, like, throughout my career and the team that we've been able to kind of put together here. Same approach with them as well. So we spend quite a bit of time building relationships, listening to our customers, getting a feel for what really is going to make them look good and what are really their core needs, versus us trying to, fit something in for them that we kind of know might not work. And I think that consultative approach has helped us tremendously, not only with our core product and then coming out with new products, but just in our long-term ability to keep these customers for an extended period of time. Because we have customers, our product works on a 2-year subscription. So when customers sign up, they sign up for 2 years. At the end of the 2 years, they have the decision. Do they want to renew that subscription, or are they interested in doing something else? And for us, again, because of that approach that we take with those customers, we've been able to retain almost all of those customers that have now been with us for 8 years, some of them, which were the, kind of early adopters, but it's in that kind of approach. And like, you do a really good job of this is just listening. And kind of when you talk to your clients or you talk to me, even for an interview or just like you and I are having a conversation, right? It's just kind of going with that conversation to really address that person, or in this case, that customer's needs.
Yeah, let's leave this section and maybe I can button it up because I think what you pointed out was the difference between consultative and commodity. And there'll be a time and a place for commodities, but if you can put, even if you have a commodity, consultative, which is a word you use that I've adopted as my own, on top of commodity, which yours is very much not. But if you're a lawyer, if you're a lobbyist, if you're in tech sales, which you were for a long time, that consultative approach, I don't almost care what it is, system integration, there's always some sales component to it. So I love the word consultative. We appreciate your time. If you like what you've heard so far, do me a favor and leave a 5-star review and share with your friends. We'll be right back. The law firm of Scholes, Brick & Rogaski is a go-to partner for me. I work the most with partner Michael Rogaski. I go to them for business contracts, strategic legal counsel to maneuver through or around complex business situations, HR and employee issues, startup needs, intellectual property protections, collection matters, and recently the purchase or sale of a business. I really like the fact they tell me if they're not the best fit and they give me a warm referral if I need it. Also, unlike so many attorneys, they're totally level-headed and calm. I've experienced it like their slogan says, small firm service, large firm result. Contact Michael Rogaski at sbrlawsd.com. Kathy Olson at Ships and Trips is as creative and as willing a travel partner as you can find. These days, you can plan a lot of trips on your own, but for those trips that require more intricate planning, tons of time, or local contacts and savvy, Kathy's the best. My family and friends have worked with her countless times in every travel country, setting, and season you can think of. Contact Kathy with a C at shipsandtripstravel.com. Hey, Troy, you brought up team, and I wanted to go there. You brought up brand and team. I'm going to foreshadow two things because you recently changed from one of my favorite brandings, which is FLAGD, just the sharp, lettering, if you will. I really like the branding on the clothes and your jacket right now and the sign behind you to a different brand. But let's start with your team, or a different logo, I should say. How do you recruit people from a sure thing? Because a lot of people you've recruited come from, quote unquote, a sure thing, a more stable environment, a company that's been around for a long time. How do you recruit people from a sure thing to, I don't know if 8 years is fledgling, but it's still startup-ish. How do you recruit them from sure thing to fledgling, even though it's exciting?
Yeah, you really got to be able to paint the vision.
I loved the look on your face when I asked you that question.
Yeah.
That was really interesting to see the look on your face.
But it is. I mean, it's true. And I mean, I've got an amazing team and folks that I've known for a long time, 25 years plus in many cases. And they've come from very successful careers where they've done really well. And again, have great background stories and could really go anywhere they want from a career standpoint and make really good money. And so to go to someone like that and convince them to take a chance on something that's entrepreneurial, brand new, for a couple of us, like an industry we'd never been in, it's really kind of getting them on board with, hey, here's what I see. Here's what I've got folks that are asking us to do this. Here's kind of my vision for where I think we can get this thing over time. Are you willing to kind of take a leap of faith to go to this place that I think is going to be really exciting in the long run, but it's going to be very uncomfortable for you
and your family
in the first few years? And again, I think the fact that I've known the people that everyone we work with for the most part for a very long time, there's some built-in trust and rapport. And, like one of my guys, we've been at almost every company that we've worked at, we've been there together. And so he's seen how I operate. I've seen how he operates. So there's some built-in, like, okay, if Troy's going to go do this, like I have some built-in faith that this thing's going to work. versus
Yeah, but those were communications companies. So you take those companies like to the dinner table and he says, honey, are you kidding me right now? Like, you're going to go, like, I understand you followed Troy to these companies, but now it's a golf company in year 7 and you're going to leave this perch to go. So what does she say back to her husband at that point? I'm making up a hypothetical person, but
well, trust me, that's the conversation I had to have with my wife too, right? She's like, "You're doing what? You're going from this to that?" And luckily for me, I've got a phenomenal wife who's very supportive and trusting in my capabilities and hopefully what, we can do and we can build together, and having that team piece, with my wife at home is the same, I think, with some of the folks who have been able to bring on. They've just got good partnerships where their partners are very willing to say, "Hey, if you think this is the right thing for your career and your life and us as a family, I'm willing to jump in." So that's been, really cool to see too. But it is, I mean, and I think a lot of people who are looking to go down that entrepreneurial path, that's the biggest hesitation. It was the biggest hesitation with me for years. I was in corporate America. I was super comfortable. I was making good money. I had a lot of job security. And really, what it took for me was having an opportunity where I was moving on from the corporate world into making a decision. Did I want to stay there? Or did I want to take one of these ideas that I thought about over the years and then just jump in? And for me, luckily, because of what I built up over time, I was able to do that. But I think, again, for people that are trying to get into the entrepreneurial, hey, I've got an idea and I want to do something, it's a tough thing when you're putting food on the table with a pretty nice income from a corporate job.
yeah, I want to go back to the logo change, but also you mentioned your amazing wife Heidi. I hope it's okay to mention her by name, but yeah, I have a number of people on my portfolio who are looking to start a business, or more importantly, probably have started a business. What does it take from the family unit? What do those conversations sound like? What type of support? You mentioned the support it takes at home. Like, give some counsel to people that are considering. What do you think won't work? Like, don't do it if.
For me, again, and in my relationship and my marriage with my wife, it's been just a true partnership from the very beginning. And so she's really good at what she does as part of our team. And I hopefully am really good at what I do as part of our team. And the two of us come together and meld really well, where I'm super supportive with things that she wants to do. And again, her focus, especially as the kids were growing up and that type of thing, was, hey, that's my responsibility. I'm doing a phenomenal job here, which she does and continues to do. But her being able to kind of support me and what I do. I've traveled my entire career, which is tough, especially with a new, long time ago, a up and coming family and all sorts of different things. But having that team discussion where the two of you kind of agree, like, hey, this is your kind of what you're going to be really good at, and this is what I'm going to be really good at, and then combining those. But for people getting into it, I think if you don't have that, it makes it really difficult because it just puts a lot of stress, not only on each of you individually, but on the relationship itself. And if you don't have those conversations early on, as example for me, hey, honey, I'm thinking about starting a golf company. What do you think? What do you mean? So it's me kind of like when I'm bringing on the team, she's the first one I got to go to get on board with the team. Because if I don't have her support, it's not going to work.
Because it's expensive.
It's expensive. It's sacrifice.
And at some point, it's collateralized against your house, and you're right, sacrifice also.
She knows how I am. One of my weaknesses is certainly that work-life balance, in some cases. And I got to make a really conscious effort at times to turn off the work and focus on home, focus on her and our kids and that type of thing. But yeah, I mean, that's a big part for sure of making that jump from, something that is secure and something that you've kind of developed a lifestyle around to, okay, now we're going in a different direction.
Yeah, it's really tough when you're getting every day, like, is it working? Is it working? Are we okay? Are we okay? Like, you have to square up coming in. And it doesn't have to be stay-at-home mom and jet-setting dad. It could be, well, it could be the inverse.
For sure.
The through line for me, and that I think is really important, I try to catch things in coaching, especially with emerging leaders, like, yeah, I'm going to my first conference. My first question is, have you talked to your spouse? Because the through line for you is communication. There's lots of two income and two working spouses, but communication is key in these entrepreneurial ventures for sure. Even in ascension, even as your job starts to change, communicate with your spouse, communicate as your kids get older, communicate with your older kids. Yeah, but I appreciate you sharing some of the, not to overuse the phrase, the through lines or the common things that you and Heidi had growing up. They say, growing the business up, build it on concrete. And the way you build it on concrete is communication, because you also catch on incongruencies. It could have easily, it didn't, because I think your track record's a couple, but there will be couples where it doesn't work. And if your spouse is not down for the rigors of business ownership, consider that a yellow light. Consider you might need to back that up, because it puts tremendous strain. And done right, there's tremendous upside, but it's a place where there are so many mistakes to be made, and you have to be square at every stage, in my opinion.
Yeah. And entrepreneurship sounds sexy. And in some cases it is sexy. And that's what I like about it. But no joke, it's a lot of work and it's a lot of time. And it's not a 9 to 5 type thing. It's a all the time thing. So you got to be willing to commit to that.
Yeah, well said. Let's switch gears to logo. I told you I love your logo. I got a bunch of hats. I've given hats out. I just think it's a really sharp branding. And you changed your logo recently.
Yeah, so we didn't officially change our logo. So it's still what you see here. People are watching this with the flag, FLAGD. But what we like to do is we kind of like to mix things up a little bit. And I've kind of done this historically in my career with like teams that I have, and creating like logos or icons for teams just to kind of differentiate us, like within a company or as a unit within an organization, things like that. And so for us, we kind of have two, I would call them kind of almost little mascots, if you will, but they were kind of developed to help us with our customers and kind of doing something that's fun and different. And so the first one we came up with was an eagle, and it kind of goes in line with like an eagle eye, and like accuracy and things like that. And so we did that the first time a couple of years ago at the PGA show, which is a big deal for us. And the response to that logo was super positive, where people were stopping us saying, "Hey, I love that logo. Where'd you get that? Or where'd you come up with that?" And it was just another way to like reinforce our brand and our company. So it goes hand in hand. So like I'm wearing FLAGD on here. You can't see it. I'm not going to take this off. But on the back of this hoodie, I have the eagle logo. And so again, it's just something that people see and then they kind of associate with FLAGD. And then again, we did another one this year for the show, which was more of an octopus looking type of logo. And again, the response is super positive, but then we can use it on social media. We can use it in some marketing material. We like to provide our customers with something that's a little bit different. So like when we go to the PGA show, we have hundreds of hats that we make up, and we give those to our customers. We don't sell the hats. We don't give them to everyone. It's really meant to be for people who are either affiliated with us somehow or, our customers. And the response has been super positive. So that's why we've done that, is just to continue to like have fun with the brand, I guess is the best way to put it.
Who comes up with that? Who does your idea might be, we need to do something different and it's fun. And I've done this with teams, but who draws the eagle? Who draws the octopus?
I come up with it's a little bit collaborative, because I'll go to the team and say, "Hey, what do you guys think? This is kind of," and they're, "Oh God, here comes Troy again with another, crazy idea." Right. And then we'll kind of go back and forth. They'll say, "Well, it's either this or this." And we'll collaborate a little bit with them. I think kind of secretly behind the scenes going, well, he's kind of setting his mind on what he wants to do. So let's just agree with what he's going to come up with. But then I have a third party company where I send kind of my mock-up of, "Hey, this is the idea." Like our octopus right now, it has a golf ball, and then it has, the 8 different tentacles, which kind of represent our FLAGD unit, which has 8 targets. But I send that to someone, and then they give me a bunch of mock-ups, and then collectively we kind of decide, all right, I think that one's the one we want to go with. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So you teed it up on a tee for me.
Oh no.
They roll their eyes at me. Here comes crazy Troy again. So if I did a 360 review of your style and your leadership, what would your team say about you?
I would hope that they would say it's a very collaborative environment, even though ultimately myself and our partners are kind of the ultimate decision makers on things. But I pretty consistently am asking all of them, be it our guys out in the field or the folks in the office, I'm pretty consistently asking them, like, what do you guys think? Am I like going down the right path, or put your eyeballs on it? Like, because we've got some younger guys, we got some older guys and gals, and it's just kind of trying to figure out collaboratively. Hopefully, they feel like they can come to us with ideas. Again, it's very entrepreneurial too. And so the other thing I'm focused on is really helping us all grow. And I would hope that they kind of would say that as well. Like, there's lots of opportunities and it's constantly evolving, but that I'm very open to them coming to me with, hey, I'm doing this now, but I'd like to maybe do this down the road. Is that something we can evolve to? And I think we've been able to support that pretty well for them. And we have a lot of fun. I mean, we work really hard. We work hard and we travel and we're away from our families and we're doing a lot of hard stuff. But I think hopefully the team would say they really love it. They like coming to work. They like their job. They like the environment and kind of the culture and the customers that we have. So I would say those are probably a few of the things that I can think of kind of top of mind that I'm hoping they would kind of respond with.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I want to ask you a couple questions, like through lines, if you will, that keep coming up with me in the coaching practice. And one, I'm going to jump off Matt Cate, who's a friend we have in common, high level executive in the public and private sector space, and somebody that I really respect. And he's had a lot of different jobs, which is why I bring it up. And a lot of times he goes from knowing nothing about this organization to now I'm the CEO or now I'm the president on day one. There's hard things to do and you do not know enough. And you've been through that also. Well, I asked him, what do you do? He said some version of in the January podcast, which is really good. If you or others haven't heard it, a lot to be learned. I set the tone and tenor of the organization and then I asked for help. Comment?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that's the only way I've been able to get the company to where we're at right now, is just finding people who know way more than I do about different things. I certainly didn't have the legal experience. I certainly didn't have the finance experience. I certainly didn't have the engineering and product development type of experience. So for me, it's networking and it's reaching out to people, starting out the company, just talking to people and saying, hey, I'm interested in doing this. Do you know someone who could help me? And you don't get it perfect upfront all of the time, but most of the people that are still part of our team are people I got introduced to early on. And over time, I've gotten better at each kind of one of those categories that I mentioned, but I'm still definitely not the expert on those. And I lean heavily on those people on the team for their expertise in those areas. And every day I come up with something new where it might be, I need to develop this and I don't know where to start. I just start picking up the phone and I'll reach out to you and say, hey, do you know someone? Or I'll reach out to, someone I know in the golf industry. Hey, do you know someone? And then from there, it's connecting the dots. And for the most part, what I found is people are very willing and open to help you if you approach it the right way. And I'm the same way kind of on the flip side. If someone was to come to me and ask me for my advice on how to start an entrepreneurial company or how to potentially, get going in the golf industry, I'm more than happy to talk to those people because I've been there. I've been in the same place they're at and wouldn't be where we're at 8 years later if it wasn't for people that have been helping us out and continue to help us out all along the way. So yeah, that's a huge thing for sure.
You said a bunch of interesting things there, but one thing I want to key on that I think is really, really interesting. It's like a nook and cranny or a nuance of what you just brought up is you said, you didn't say exactly this, but a version of like, I sucked at this coming in finance or payroll, or like, how do I get this product to market? And I put smart advisors around me. But then what you said is I got better at that. you cannot serve your advisors as an executive or at a certain level if you don't know anything.
For sure.
So abdication of your responsibilities as a teammate. An example for me was Javier Zuniga, who was the second of 3 business coaches I've had. One of his first lines of questioning was in my office was about our budget. And I started writing notes, and he goes, "What are you doing?" And I said, I'm writing notes so I can ask my internal and external finance people. And he goes, "If you're writing notes on my questions, you don't know enough. You can't even partner with them. You don't even know enough to get started." So I hear component pieces of that where it's not abdicating it to the CPA, abdicating it to the technologist, you have to get better all the time so you can serve your team and your advisors, correct?
For sure. And there's a certain amount of expectations from others that come with the title of being a founder or a CEO. People want you to know. Like if I go to someone and they ask me, a finance question, certainly they're going to want me to know, if not the details, at least at a high level, kind of the explanation of what the finances look like and things like that. Or if it's about our website, as an example, or like our CRM, like behind the scenes systems or payroll. So again, I get very, very involved at the beginning and getting things established and kind of getting that foundation in place around all these different things. And then I keep involved with them daily by just using them and kind of staying involved with them. But then I've gotten better at this. I didn't used to be very good at this at all, but is then somewhat delegating to the people I trust to do the day to day and really be the experts on it. So if you were to go ask me a question about payroll, I know enough where if you ask me some questions about payroll, I could figure it out and I could get into our systems and make some adjustments, but I'm not the expert on payroll. We've got someone else who's there to help us with like that's what they do.
Yeah.
So that's kind of an example of that and kind of my involvement with it.
Yeah, really good example. I want to put a second example that's a really common thing that comes up and get your attention on it. Yeah, I really appreciate that. That what I don't want to hear from an emerging leader or from an entrepreneur is, I have no idea. I'll just ask my people. It's not mine. I'm like,
No,
not good enough. You cannot serve your team. You cannot serve your advisors if you don't know enough. So continue to do what Troy did. You level up. And then your attention on front end is interesting too. Like you get baked into the cake, you know enough going forward, and then you touch up your learning going forward, but you're not on point.
right.
That's a really interesting nuance too. We appreciate your time. If you like what you've heard so far, do me a favor and leave a 5-star review and share with your friends. We'll be right back. Three Bridges Consulting did the video on the recently rebranded nickwarnerconsulting.com. I really love the video because it helps me sell by speaking directly to my prospective clients. Dennis and Sean at Three Bridges Consulting are high-level storytellers for the purpose of helping my prospective coaching clients understand what differentiates me from the pack. A recent new coaching client literally said to me, "You don't need to sell me, Nick. Your video sold me. I understand what you do and how you work with me as a client." That is a true story. You know I love that. Contact 3BC at threebridgesconsulting.co. Ken and his team at Connect Strategies head up my post-rebrand digital marketing campaign. I'm moving up the rankings for business coaches and consultants quickly. Connect is 20 years in the business, and I feel like they're really focused on my account. I refer business coaching clients to Connect too, and I get really good reports on result, professionalism, and drive. Thank you, Connect. Contact Ken at KNECHT The second thing I want to bring up with you that continues to come up is there's 2 ways to say it. The more crass way is assholes at work, and the more appropriate way for the show is brilliant jerks. So you probably don't have that because you're tapping people on the shoulder, but in your client base, really high performing salesperson, it's usually somebody that's really good internal and they know they're really good and they know there's something close to irreplaceable. And it comes up a lot in my practice is like, how do I deal with this person that has some leverage as a client or as a teammate, a staffer, if you will? Thoughts about brilliant jerks at work?
Luckily for us on the asshole or brilliant jerk side of things, we don't run into a whole lot of those with our customers or with our vendors or like our partners that we're dealing with. I should knock on wood, right? Because as soon as I say that, we're going to have like a red hot issue that's going to come up today.
You're going to get screamed out later today for sure.
Yeah, exactly. But what I found, because I've certainly had this throughout my career, and when you talk about leverage and folks internally and having those types of conversations, my biggest thing always is just trying to like humanize it, I guess is the right is kind of the phrase I would use as much as possible. So like if I'm having a conversation with one of these brilliant jerks and they've got, let's say they have an issue with us as a company and they're really upset. And they're, by the time they get to me, they've already talked to a couple people probably. They're coming to me saying, I can't believe you guys have done this. This is just beyond expect. Like, how are you going to fix it? And so what I really try to do is be empathetic. Number one, hey, I understand where you're coming from. Let me understand the problem. Let them kind of explain it to me, get through, listen, instead of trying to come up with excuses and, oh my gosh, you should have done this or should have done that, right? Because that's the surefire way to blow things up pretty quickly. But then it's listening to them, kind of getting a feel for what the problem is and saying, kind of flipping the script a little bit to say, okay, totally get where you're coming from. If you were in my shoes, what would you do to help solve your problem? And then usually what they're going to say is well, you should give me, all this stuff for free, or, or you need to get someone here on site immediately, or, whatever that the problem is, right? At the time, they're going to somewhat say, well, if I was in your shoes, this is what I would do. And then you kind of put it back on them. Like, great. Totally get that. In a perfect world, we would have someone there like tomorrow. But, here's kind of what we're dealing with. I would love to, help solve that problem. If we could get someone there by the next day, would that help alleviate the pain that you're feeling right now? And for whatever reason, for me, it doesn't, obviously doesn't work all the time. And you're going to get people that are upset and they just want to scream at you, right? And you just got to kind of listen to them. But when you humanize it, I think it just kind of brings it to, okay, this person's listening to me. I'm kind of solving my own problem, if you're flipping the script on them, and I'm giving them what I basically need. And a lot of times, if you try to fix it without asking them that, you're not fixing it right. You're not coming up with the right solution anyway. And same goes with like the leverage conversation that you mentioned is, hey, totally get it. I understand where you're at. I understand where you're at in your career. Here's kind of what I'm dealing with as the CEO and founder of the company. I want to support you to the best of my abilities. If you were in my shoes, how would you do that? And then let them put on the CEO hat. And then they'll start thinking, well, okay, think about that. Now, we also not only have you, but we got to, like, what would you do with the marketing team? Like, what would you do with the finance team? Like all these different things that are there to, let's say, support a salesperson or whatever it might be. And again, the more you kind of talk through that with them and they kind of say, oh, okay, now I kind of get the bigger picture and it's not just specifically about them or that problem. A lot of times that kind of helps comfort them, I guess, is the best word there.
Can a brilliant jerk work on your team? And by a brilliant jerk, I mean somebody who's just crushing it. They do amazing in the golf industry. They're selling like crazy, but they're causing waves with suppliers, with channel partners, and your own team. They have enough leverage to give you. I mean, you may not have that now, but could that person survive on your team? Because they do survive on some teams, and I don't like it.
It would be very difficult. And I think that goes into who we would bring on originally and really vetting those people out to understand.
That's such a good point.
Kind of where they're coming from and what their style is. And again, that consultative type of approach that we talked about and the listening piece of it. So really trying to, like when I sit down and hire someone, it's kind of looking for those types of things where you're not getting that personality that's super combative or flies off the handle, and some of those you don't know. And certainly I've made my share of mistakes hiring people over the years, and you just unfortunately have to deal with it on the back end. But the more you can identify those up front, obviously the better. But it'd be really tough for us to have someone like that because I think it just ruins our culture. And our culture is fast moving, fun, taking care of the customer, listening to them. It's all about, like, we don't really we do call our customers, but more times than not, we call them partners because we're kind of in this together. And that's it's hard to do if you've got someone who's pissing people off all the time.
Yeah, really good. Really interesting to hear your thoughts on that. Really appreciate. I think we all appreciate that. I'm a little surprised we get into the fourth quarter here. I'm a little surprised you're still privately held. It seems to me, and I don't know a ton, but just the way it's set up, 500 courses now, 500 plus courses now. You had mentioned in the last in Troy Parish 1.0 that you wanted world domination. Like you didn't want to just have 500 courses in the U.S., but you want to be international also. I mean, you're ripe for the picking. I'm surprised. Like, what are some of your considerations for being public, private, being bought out, subsumed, any of these things?
One of the biggest things is it's our baby, right? Like we started this thing from scratch, and it's been really fun and rewarding to see where it's come. And I love what I'm doing, and I'm having so much fun doing. Again, it's a lot of hard work, and am I going to be able to do this forever? No. And that's certainly part of the bigger picture of where we want to take this. But we also bootstrapped it. Like we didn't go out and raise a ton of money to start this. And I think that's another thing for your listeners as far as entrepreneurship in general. Yes, it took some investment on our side, but it wasn't astronomical. And again, we didn't go outside. Where we really built it was we didn't invest a ton of money to start, but we made sure we put all of our energy and effort into a great solution that customers were going to like. And then we went to customers first and had the customers give us feedback and kind of trial things and get things going for us. And we started to get revenue from, let's say, 10 customers. And those 10 customers help fuel the company from the get-go. But like I wasn't paying myself, and it was tough to pay our salespeople, and we didn't have a team of people, and a lot of people taking bets on us as independent contractors with, again, the vision that we talked about and painting the picture. And so for us, again, it's been bootstrapped from the very beginning. So for us to give away too much, I guess, would be the thing, would be hard in some cases to digest unless it was a really good strategic kind of made sense financially, as well as, a fit for the company for us to look at, someone coming in and potentially partnering or buying us or those types of things. Certainly that's, for me, the plan eventually is to continue to grow and hopefully then start to have these really cool and exciting strategic partnerships with people who are interested in FLAGD. But again, it all comes back to this. And I think this is probably what you would hear from most entrepreneurs is I like being able to make the decisions, right? I like being able to say, let's make an octopus logo and see what happens, which are crazy ideas, but it's fun. And that's the cool thing. And you lose some of that when you start giving away or having outside money come in and want to somewhat dictate where the plans go. I think for us, I know we could have and we could continue to grow faster if we had that in place as a company, because our brand, our product, the customers that we see, it's all extremely positive. And if we had, more of the kind of foundation on the capital side of things, I think we could probably, again, grow at a faster rate. But you kind of got to balance it. Like, do we want to go here immediately? Or here's how we've kind of gradually grown it. And every year it kind of gets better and better and better to the point where, again, we look back 8 years and it wasn't like, woo, straight up the charts, but it's going up the charts. And for me, that's been a cool way to grow. But that may change, right? Yeah, it may change. You never know.
Yeah, you're a phone call away from getting yelled at or maybe even having an interesting buyout conversation. You never know.
Yeah, you never know. Yep, exactly.
Yeah, I mean, we talk about saying no is the same as saying yes to something else. And also leverage is a big thing in this work life, and putting yourself in a position where you can have a lot of control over your destiny because you haven't gotten over your skis. You haven't overfunded. You're not over leveraged from a bank. You're not putting out more product than you can support. It's a gas and a clutch type of mentality, but you're saying no to something and saying yes to something else.
Yeah. And for us, I mean, the things I've said no to typically are like the easy things. And the things I say yes to are like accepting that things are going to be somewhat hard. So the easy, like as an example, saying no to, let's say, someone who wants to come in and potentially buy us, right? It's, yeah, that might have been the easy thing to do because now it takes, all the stress over the financial piece of it and my security and all of our employees' security and all that type of thing. But that's not necessarily the right answer. That's, maybe the wrong answer. The hard answer in saying no to them to say yes to the hard path is putting in all the hard work and the daily grind and everything that's going into building the company up to get us to the point where we really are where we want to be. I think that's, again, probably the biggest thing as far as saying no to things. It's really taking a look and saying, okay, someone's coming to me with something. This would be really easy, but I don't think we should do that. I think we should probably go this way because it's going to take a little bit more steps, but I think it's a better way to do it.
Yeah. What motivates you 7, almost 8 years in? Same thing as day one or different things?
Same stuff. I mean, I love working with our customers. I'm a big relationship guy. I think you kind of know that, and we've talked about that historically. I think one of my strengths, I would say, is extrovert, like wanting to be out and in front of people and winning people over and all of that. And I love sales and I love the marketing side of things. I love golf. And so I'm getting to go to, all these really cool premier clubs throughout the country and play golf in many cases at some of these really cool places. And I like the hard work. I mean, I mentioned the work-life balance, which that's the weakness for me is like turning it off because I get going. And if I get going, my wife or my friends are like, oh, here it comes. Like he's in a zone. Like they're outside trying to talk to me and it's just not happening because I'm so in the zone.
Now here he comes. There he goes.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I mean, for me, I would say that's what keeps me going. And it's just I like to have fun, and I love the culture of it. And I like hard work. And some people don't like hard work, but I really do.
I got to ask you about that part. And then I want to ask you what I think I know what you're excited about, but I want to hear what you're excited about. Maybe something I didn't ask you that you want to talk about. But tell us about the hard work because I'm picturing you. I mean, I know travel's hard work, especially these days. And I saw at the PGA show, it looked like you had a crew of maybe 10 or 12 people with you. It's also expensive, but I'm picturing you on a golf course in a range, like doing what you do, laughing and having a great time. What's the hard work?
It's like the duck on the top of the water, right? The duck's flying away and he looks great. And underneath, it's all this, going on. If you looked at our Instagram or you followed our website or things like that, it looks like we're always playing golf, right? And that's somewhat by design. We want it to look cool and within part of the culture and, supporting customers and being there and out and about. But what you don't see a lot of times is like me, like I was just out of town this last weekend and I was here on Saturday from like 10 to 4 working on stuff that I had to have ready to go by Monday because I was flying out to Texas to meet with a big customer. So it's like, you don't see all that type of stuff. And it's kind of by design too. We're starting to do a little bit more of that, where we're kind of giving people a little bit more view into like the stuff that's going on behind the scenes.
Yeah, like you got to produce the units, you got to produce these presentations. It's significant spend, and it's not one human you have to convince. It's a board, usually a board or a committee, that sort of thing. So you don't just show up.
Yeah.
And you got to manufacture. You have some out of box failure, some weather related failure. There's a lot of stuff you don't see under the waterline.
Yeah, there's just all sorts of things. I mean, and I don't know if you can see my planner, but like this is, all the crap we got going on. Like it's to-do list and it's like, but yeah, I mean, there's always, there's stuff going on. And as much as, I love the hard work and that type of thing, again, what most people don't see is like when I'm here in San Diego, I'm in the office by 7 on a lot of days. And then I don't leave till, 7 o'clock. So, and again, I have fun and cool stuff sometimes during the week where, I get out and do something. But when I'm here and I'm here and we're going, right? We're rolling up the sleeves and we're working hard.
Yeah. What haven't I asked you about that you're excited about that you want to get out to the listeners, Troy?
Yeah. So what I'm really excited about is where the company is evolving. And as I mentioned from talking with our customers, them continuing to come back to us with different needs. So we've got some cool stuff that we're working on. We debuted some stuff at the PGA show, but it's things that, again, are in line with our brand and what we do as a company with like technology, but doing it in a way that's cool and simple and easy to use. And now it's going to touch on not only the course type of environment, but we've got some products that are now going to kind of have their tentacles like that with the octopus.
I
There
see
you
where
go,
you
the
did that with
octopus.
the eagle and the octopus. Now I get it because I did not get the octopus till right there. That was very well played.
The tentacles are going to expand out into kind of more business to consumer. So we're going to have, something that like you as a member of a private country club or someone who isn't a member at a country club and just wants to use this new product, they're going to be able to potentially use that. So it's still somewhat in the prototype stages. So I don't want to go too far down the path, but those are really the exciting things for us, right? Because just when I think we've got like our core products figured out and we're going down this path and we've got really cool stuff, something else comes up and we look at it and we go, oh, that is really cool. And being able to have the flexibility as an entrepreneurial company to do that, I think differentiates us a lot of times from some of the bigger ones out there who it's tougher to move. It's tougher to move the big ship than it is the speedboat for sure.
Yeah, really fun to hear about all these things. I'd love to be able to check back in. I mean, we went from year 3 to now just about year 8. So
yeah,
if we have you back in year 11, it'd be interesting to see. And Riley, we'll work on the silk robe
yeah,
for our 3-timers, but I don't know that 2-timers get one. So Troy Parish, you did an awesome job in this interview. It was amazing to learn from you. On behalf of our listeners, I'm grateful for the opportunity. Thank you also to our listeners, our great team at Podigy Podcast, and especially congratulations to our amazing producer, Riley Byrne, and his family for the birth of their first child. See you next month on Together at the Top.
Thank you, Nick. If you need my robe size, just let me know. I'll send it over.
Duly noted. Thank you so much for your time. Together at the Top thrives off listeners like you. To stay connected, follow our socials in the show notes and leave a review on Apple Podcasts. We'll be releasing our show on the last Tuesday of every month. See you next time. At Nick Warner Consulting, we exist to coach and consult motivated professionals. I meet with you on Zoom in focused 90-minute sessions, working toward your goals and developing next-level business skill sets. My job is to add value to your organization and your career. To learn more, visit www.nickwarnerconsulting.com or call me directly at 916-765-3576.